Okay, Mike Coulthard with Farmers here. I'm going to show you now our Farmers Indexed Universal Life. Okay, now a lot of people say positive and negative about Universal Life, and that'll be a whole new conversation. Um, what I will say though is that Indexed Universal Life, in my opinion, is far better than the Variable Universal Life, in that if you have a VUL or a Variable Universal Life, what that does is it allows you to participate in the market with your cash value. Well, not you specifically, but the insurance company. And so basically, what happens is with a VUL, you do have the risk of losing your money in the market. So if you lose your money in the market, you lose your life insurance policy, right? So I don't sell VUL. I'm not licensed to sell VUL, and I have no desire to sell VUL because I have yet to see a VUL policy that actually does what it says. And I'll give you an example. I talked to a 78-year-old retired life insurance agent who had several VULs because that's what he sold, and all his policies are gone. They all lapsed because the market didn't perform like he was hoping, and the cost of insurance got so expensive in his later years, he just gave them all up. Another mentor of mine, actually, I think he's 82 or 83 this year. I was just talking to him, and he's down to one policy left. All his other policies are gone. So, fixed index universal life is what you want. You want a fixed rate, you want indexed for the growth, and you want universal life, which gives you flexibility. Um, and I'll talk a little more about that in a minute. This is the illustration that you would get if you were to do business with me. And essentially, I want to go over a couple things here. The income tax-free death benefits, okay? Now, there's a lot of regulations in California. Every state has their own regulations, and there's a lot of things that they want us to tell you and they don't want us to tell you. And so, one of the things they don't want us to tell you is how the IRS allows life insurance to be tax-free. They don't actually want us to tell you the code. And so, it's really kind of interesting. We can't use that in our sales presentations, and we also cannot tell you about the emergency fund that the state has in each state in case the insurance company does not survive, right? Which is very unlikely. So there's interesting things that the Insurance Department of Insurance does not allow us to tell you, which I think is kind of interesting because those are kind of important for you to understand where your money's going, right? But suffice it to say that when you invest in any type of life insurance policy, you're actually providing um, guarantees to your family, and that's really what matters. And when you work with a company like Farmers, I don't have to tell you that Farmers is a good brand. So let's go right back into it now. Okay, so you have tax-free death benefits, and we have to say generally because we can't, use the word guarantee anymore, even though this is a contract. Okay, this is a contract, civil binding, enforceable in civil court between you and the insurance company. Um, and when it comes to court, the insurance companies usually lose, so they make sure that they have a contract that's in your best interest. Okay. All right, so here we go. Tax-free death benefits. And these are guaranteed for life. Sorry, I said the G word. Meaning, as long as you're paying the premiums, this death benefit is going to be there. Okay, and I'll show you how that works. Financial protection accumulation. Okay, with the indexed account options tied to the S&P 500 index and the Mark 5% ER index, that is a unique index just for farmers, I've been told. And so there's those options. And what happens is the insurance company, that's all they do is focus on making money, right? And so what they do is they participate in the bond market, and they utilize the S&P and the Mark 5 to determine how much they're going to credit your account. Okay, so I'm not going to get too much into this, but essentially, you benefit when the market goes up, and you benefit when the market goes down because your principal or your cash value will never go negative. Okay, that's the key with any type of good quality life insurance product. All right, so you can leverage the market's potential, and that's pretty much what I mentioned. You can have the flexibility to make changes based on your evolving needs in the market. Well, in this particular case, I mean, the only changes you can really make are, fixed, or you can adjust between the two markets, but um, it does not really matter that much, to be honest with you. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that because this is not a VUL policy to where you're really investing in the market. Okay. And what we really want to focus on here also, though, is the cash value growth potential. Okay. When the policy primarily provides a death benefit, generally in the income tax deferred. Okay. Again, that's that word again. We can't guarantee, but it's income tax deferred. It really is not taxable. But for the reasons I mentioned before, we can't say those few words. But because it's growing inside the policy, it's not taxable. When you take a loan out from the policy, it's not taxable because it's a loan. Okay, so there's just a play of words that they have to say. Be careful. So your cash value builds up. Okay, so I'm just going to just show you what we got. I'm not going to bore you with all this stuff here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to show you. I like showing you the real stuff here. Okay. All right. So here we have a index universal life policy. We're looking at $150,000 death benefit, and it's $252 a month. Okay. And let's just see what now. This is the one that has the full underwriting. Okay. This is our index universal life. So let's see here. So basically, I like to go right to the numbers. We can go here, a guaranteed minimum growth cap, participation rates, and index. This is where the index comes in. All right, so we have a growth rate, which is a cap of 3%. So this is not, if you're looking to, grow 1,000% interest in your policy, this is not the policy to do, okay? This is where you want to stockpile some cash and you want to front load the policy and let it grow. And let it build up so you have access to your cash while you're doing self-banking, basically, right? This is what these policies are really good for. Um, and so we have this participation rate, 50%, which means half of your cash value. They utilize a percentage of that, and they would credit you based on that amount. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to get a whole lot into how they do it all. They're just really good at it. All you need to know is that your cash value can grow, and it's also protected from market losses. Um, and you don't have to worry about the money being lost because of market crashes. Okay. Now that's the guarantees inside the policy. Worst case scenario, no growth in the market. This is your minimum growth cap, so that's why it's so low, 3%, 50% participation rate. Now, the non-guaranteed, which is usually the more realistic situation that happens, you have a maximum cap of 12.5%. Okay. So in other words, if the market goes up, 20%, then you get 12.5%. Your insurance company keeps the rest. That's how they make their money, right? Nothing's free. They have to make their money too. All right, the participation rate, this is where 100% of your cash value is utilized in the market crediting that they do, and that way they can give you a higher return, all right, or higher credit. What they use in this terminology is a higher credit, okay? And then you have the two indexes that we use, okay? Um, so that's basically how that works. We can go into more detail on our own meeting if you want, but this is just intended to kind of give you an overview of how Index Universal Life works. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the numbers here and just kind of finish up with the final explanation here. And so essentially what you're looking at is $3,000 a year, and that's going to give you $150,000 death benefit. Now you have your guaranteed assumptions, and you have your mid-range or non-guaranteed, and then you have your more realistic range rates right here. So we have to give you a mid-range, and this is always lower than the actual, just because we don't want to over-promise or give you any unrealistic expectations of the growth of your policy, okay? Because this is not an investment uh, as people understand it when you're investing or you're putting money into the stock market, right? Which is really gambling, but they use the word investing. So the purpose of this policy should be one, building cash value, front loading, putting maximum amount of money into this policy so that you have your own bank essentially, right? You want to build up cash inside a tax beneficial. I have to be careful with the way I use the tax word now. And so it grows tax beneficially. And then if you want to borrow money to go buy yourself a car, or if you want to go buy some equipment for your business, or you want to go, buy some property or down payment or whatever without having to worry about the tax implications, you borrow money from your policy, and a loan is not taxable. And then you repay yourself, and you can repay yourself with interest because there is interest here, and then you go ahead and once you pay yourself back, you borrow it again, just do it over and over again as long as you want. So what's going to depend on how much money you can put into the policy is how um, how high we get the death benefit compared to your premium and how much money you want to build up. So that's something that you and I will sit down together and figure out what it is you want to do with your policy. But this is just kind of an idea of how they work. Okay, so $150,000 death benefit. The contract value is the value of the policy. So the value starts growing right away, but you don't have access to the money for a couple years because it's just like a house. You buy a house and you have no equity. So your equity builds up because here's the way it works. You put $3,000 into this policy in your first year and you die, the insurance company's on the hook for 150 grand to your family. So your family wins, right? And so the risk in a life insurance policy is in the beginning to the insurance company. Everyone says, "Oh, insurance company making money." Insurance companies don't make money in the beginning if you die, right? They make money at the end. The insurance companies want you, life insurance companies want you to live as long as possible because the longer you live, the more chances they have of getting their money back. All right. They're basically fronting you $150,000 for a small fee, and then if something happens to you, they're taking all the risk and writing a $150,000 check. So as time goes on, this cash value grows, which reduces their risk, right? So now here, 15 years into the policy, $46,000 is surrender value, which means if you were to cancel the policy at this age, I wouldn't recommend it because you're leaving your family with no money. But if you were to do that, they would write you a check for $46,368. Okay. Um, and then the policy would be gone, right? So the idea here is that here we have a policy you've been putting money into for so many years, and you want to make sure that you're getting your most value. So you're putting 3,000 a year times 15, that's $45,000. So after 15 years, you've earned your policy has earned all of your premiums back. You put $45,450 into the policy, and at age 50, at year 15, age 65 in this example, you can essentially take a loan for $45,450, put it back in your bank account, and you now have a policy that is fully paid for. And the policy is still in effect, okay? And your cash value is still growing. Now you borrowed 45,450, but now the surrender value is 51,000, right? So um, you take out the 45,000 and you can have the the balance of it. You can take a little bit more, maybe 5 grand out, and then as you see, even though there's a loan, the surrender value keeps growing. Okay. Now, if you have a $45,000 loan, doesn't mean you could take $50,000 out now, right? Because you already borrowed 45. But the idea here is that even though you borrowed the money, the cash value is still growing. That's the key. You cannot find that in any other financial product. This life insurance policy is an asset class of its own. All right. So we have a couple concepts here. So here we have the guaranteed assumptions based on the maximum charges, okay? Because like I mentioned, in the later years, the cost of insurance gets higher and higher and higher, okay? And so in this case, this is not a policy that I would sell to you because this policy ends at age 81 on the guarantee side. And then the mid-range side, it ends at age 89. So what I would do here is I would actually probably I would increase the death benefit to be probably like $4,500. This is where I would kind of work it out and make sure the numbers work. Okay. And then you can see here that there's no more guarantees. So it's all solely based on how the policy performs. And typically, this is what we like to focus on because this is where the policies typically are performing. But we want to make sure that we build the policy properly so that your policy is going to be there for the duration. You can see here in age 91, you can see your death benefit is forced higher because your cash value is higher. Your cash value has to grow with your death benefit at certain points. So this is a pretty strong policy um, because all the guarantees start going away in the 80s and almost 90s. And the non-guarantees are still flowing very nicely. So this is how IULs work in a generic explanation. For your particular circumstance, we have to have an individual meeting to make sure that I know exactly what it is you want to do. And this may not be what is best for you. There are other products out there that might be better. We do have a whole life product. So these are things that we do individually to see how we can create a specific um, product or program that actually is for you and your family.